him who saves us by his blood. Let us put down roots to deep water. Let us drink from the fountain of life. And we shall be like trees planted by the waters, planted by rivers wide and deep. Trees green and fruitful, bearing fruit of love in the vineyard of the King. Come, let us grow in the grace and knowledge of God's Spirit by which we're sealed, studying the riches of His word. Let us eat of the bread that He gives, and we shall be like trees planted by the waters, planted by rivers wide and deep. Trees green and fruitful, bearing fruit of love in the vineyard of the King. Come, let us grow in the grace and knowledge of He who calls us by His Son. Let us gather now at His table. Let us feast on the richest of food. And we shall be like trees planted by the waters, planted by rivers wide and deep. Trees green and fruitful, bearing fruit of love in the vineyard of the King.
Good morning. Let's edify one another this morning, shall we? It's a beautiful morning. We had a nice, lovely thunderstorm last night. Lightning was a crackling and a popping. Had a couple of close strikes. Really scared the pants off Shua. But the air smells clean. View looks pretty and bright. Move that out of there so we don't get totally. Somehow or other, I ended up under a drip from the eaves. Either that. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Interestingly enough. Oh well. I won't melt, and it's doubtful that I'll actually what is up with that? That is weird. Google is acting strange. Good morning, Maureen. Lightning. The thunderstorm. Actually, my phone is acting. Well, Google it is. Yeah, strange. I don't know as I like the way that Google is acting right now. Hello, CJ. I'm going to actually reload and see if that doesn't clear up some things. Be right back. Good morning, Sister T. Well, I may have to just deal with it. Hey, Skylar. I may just have to deal with it. Normally, my little bar at the bottom of my screen that allows me to do the back and the all that disappears, and it isn't doing that today. I don't like that. Let's see here. It's probably just some setting where I need to change to go back to full screen or something. Oh, well. Morning, evening, Sam. We're rumbling, huh? I've got a rumble in my tumbler. You're going to find it's kind of disconcerting because one of them is going to be a little bit faster than the other. One of them is going to be ahead of the other one. It's one of those days where you just want to sit back and chill and relax in the summertime. Summertime. And the fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Porgy and Bess. Well, the interesting thing about Rumble, what I like about it is you can actually set your app up so where it continues to keep playing in the background. Hello, Shea, and yes, it is, Skylar. It is gorgeous out here today. Anyway, good morning, Anna. Of course, that song always evokes images of the end of the day. You know, it's really hot and it starts the downhill slide towards the evening. Sitting out on the porch or sitting out by the pond, fishing. Sitting out on the porch with a nice tall glass of cool lemonade. But stumbled across a reel this morning that had a lot of good points. The things that I have tried to be saying, but said it in a lot better ways about anger. So if you guys want to watch that, I shared it on my Facebook page. Your daddy's rich and your mama's good-looking. I don't remember a whole lot about Porgy and Bess, but I do remember that song. I always liked that song. Anyhow, how y'all doing today? I hope those of you who are getting started this morning have had a good night's rest. Sam, I hope your day's been good and blessed. And we are ready to begin our lesson this morning. Lesson 184 in the I Grow Daily Devotion, a book written by Philip Johnson, produced by Focus Press. There's a link in the description, link in the chat screen, run scrolling across the screen under the hair of my chinny chin chin. Let's turn to James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4. We're going to read those three verses, before we get into our meditation. Alicia, you forgot to put the quote in there, so I'd suggest that while I read, Skylar's having a great morning. CJ says we're about halfway there. Not sure exactly about halfway where, but we're about halfway there. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. Oh, through the book, yeah. We might get through it next year. Since we started doing more of the off the cuffs, and we ended up getting more deeper in the book or in the questions than the last time we went through the book, it has slowed our progress down quite a bit, but it's definitely been more beneficial, I think. The quote is, out of struggle comes strength of character. Put 1 minute on the clock as we meditate upon that quote, having read the following the previous three verses. Now you just need a table for your coffee cup. What? Now you just need a table for your coffee cup. Okay. You do. If you take your Wonder here, Seth, take your Wonder bar, but you keep wondering where it is. You take Al with you. Ooh. Excuse me. Oh, thank you. All right. We're going to put time on the clock. We're going to read Psalm 140 through Psalm 142. The cotton is high. Banner. Psalm 140 through 142. My dear daughter, you need to switch psalms because you're in the wrong psalm. Thank you. Deliver me, O Lord, from evil men. Preserve me from the Larry man. Preserve me from the violent man. That's all you needed to do was get your pads on. Which imagine mischiefs in their heart continually, or in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Keep me, O Lord, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man who have purposed to overthrow my goings. The proud have hid a snare for me and cords. They have spread a net by the wayside. They have set gins for me. I said unto the Lord, Thou art my God. Hear the voice of my supplications, O Lord. O God, the Lord, the strength of my salvation, thou hast covered my head in the day of battle. Grant not, O Lord, the desires of the wicked, further not his wicked device, lest they exalt themselves. As for the head of those that compass me about, let the mischief of their own lips cover them. Let burning coals fall upon them. Let people, let them be cast into the fire, into deep pits, that they rise not up again. 11, please. Let not an evil speaker be established in the earth. Evil shall hunt the violent man to overthrow him. Good morning, Heather. 12, please, Alicia. I know that the Lord will maintain the cause of the afflicted and the right of the poor. Surely the righteous shall give thanks unto thy name, and the upright shall dwell in thy presence. Lord, I cry unto thee, make haste unto me, give ear unto my voice when I cry unto thee. Let my prayer be set forth before thee as incense, and the lifting up my hands as the evening sacrifice. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. Have a good day at work. Incline not my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men that work iniquity, and let me not eat of their dainties. Let the righteous smite me. It shall be a kindness. It shall be a kindness, and let him reprove me. It shall be an excellent oil, which shall not break my head. For yet my prayer also shall be in their calamities. When their judges are overthrown in stony places, they shall hear my words, for they are sweet. Our bones are scattered at the grave's mouth, as when one cutteth and cleaveth wood upon the earth. But mine eyes are unto thee, O God, the Lord. In thee is my trust. Leave not my soul destitute. Keep me from the snares which they have laid for me, and the gins of the workers of iniquity. Let the wicked fall into their own nets, whilst that I withal escape. Psalm 142. I cried unto the Lord with my voice. With my voice unto the Lord did I make my supplication. I poured out my complaint before him. I showed before him my trouble. When my spirit was overwhelmed within me, then thou knewest my path. In the way wherein I walked have they privily laid a snare for me. I looked on my right hand, and beheld that there was no man that would know me. Refuge failed me. No man cared for my soul. I cried unto thee, O Lord. I said, Thou art my refuge and my portion in the land of the living. Attend unto my cry, for I am brought very low. Deliver me from my persecutors, for they are stronger than I. Bring my soul out of prison, that I may praise thy name. The righteous shall compass me about, for thou shalt deal bountifully with me. Psalm 140 through 142. Let's put some time on the clock. About 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And we're going to answer these 5 questions and reflect on our answers to them. Question number 1. What struggles has David been experiencing in Psalm 140? What struggles was David experiencing in Psalm 140? Let's see. Okay. Question number 2. Have you ever had similar problems? I think I lost a lot of my commentators. Guess you could do that. Well, I was not going to use this, but okay, it'll work. Ooh, don't run very fast. Don't want you to trip and fall. And Alyssa, don't forget to star answers, because I do not wish to block anybody like I did the other day. Then I might have to have CJ jump in and save the day again. Question number 3. Read Psalm 142 and verse 4. Felicia will bring that up. 142 and verse 4. I looked on my right hand, and beheld, there was no man that would know me. Refuge failed me, no man cared for my soul. Why was David's relationship with God so important to him? And question number 4. What is the connection between verses 3 and 4 in Psalm 141 and verse 8? What's the connection between, and that's supposed to be connection, my dear, between verses 3 and 4 in Psalm 142 and verse 8 also in Psalm 141? Alicia, that's supposed to be verses 3 and 4 in Psalm 141, as well as verse 8. 3 and 4, which tells us, set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth, keep the door of my lips. Incline not my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men that work iniquity, and let me not eat their dainties. And then verse 8. But mine eyes are unto thee, O God, the Lord. In thee is my trust. Leave not my soul destitute. Question number 5. When is it most difficult for you to keep your eyes fixed on God? Two more to start, Alicia. Mac, you should be a little closer to the combine. All right. Question number 1 was, what struggles was David experiencing in Psalm 140? Sister T starts us off by saying, evil men, verse 1. Deliver me, O Lord, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man. Or from the violent man. Sam said, no, you forgot Sam's. I know Sam was next. Oh, no, yeah. Evil and perverse men. Now, Annas, David is running from men who intend harm and evil against him. And I haven't seen any of Maureen's comments today. I hope she didn't get taken away from us, but I bet you she got to had stuff come up. So, all right. The biggest problem David had was, of course, like wicked men. He ran into that quite frequently. He had violent men. There were multiple times when he actually chastised his nephew, nonetheless, who was in charge of his armies. Joab was his nephew. He was the son of Zeruiah, which happens to be his sister. Amazingly enough, Zeruiah was David's sister, and Joab, Abishai, and Who was the other one? I keep wanting to say Abishag, but that was not it, because Abishag was a girl. Anyway, but frequently he was saying, "What do I have to do with you, thou son of Zeruiah?" And it always cracks me up when he says that. He did have problems with jealous Saul, Sam, but he always viewed Saul as not wicked, but the Lord's anointed. Did you ever notice that? He never once viewed Saul as wicked. He simply was, why are you after my life? What have I done to deserve you chasing me as one who chases a flea? But he was quite frequently throughout his life was like, what in the world are you, what are you doing, you son of Zeruiah? And he was very upset multiple times with the way Joab handled things. And or the way that his other nephew did. When, for example, I'm still drawing a blank as to who it was. He wanted to go and kill Saul when they were in the camp with Saul. Yes, evil, proud, violent men, says Maureen. Welcome back, my dear sister. See, we missed your comments. When he did, and I think it was Abishai that wanted to do that one. I gotta find my search. Come on. Where'd you go? Where'd I put you? There you are. Way down there. Yeah, it was Abishai that wanted to. Abishai says to David, he says, God has delivered your enemy into your hand this day. Now, therefore, let me smite him. And David says to him, destroy him not. Or when they were, just a bit further in the when they were in the cave. For example, we read in Psalm 142, David's in the cave. Saul comes in to relieve himself, and what you see is David putting writing a psalm about that, about the Lord delivering him, and the men wanted him to kill Saul then and there, and he's like, "What? No." So it was wicked men that had laid traps and snares for David, and David's like, "No, Lord, preserve me from these people." The question then comes to question number 2: have you ever Maureen's I sometimes forget, my dear sister, you've got the book. Maureen's answering the questions. I got them all starred. Question number 2: have you ever had similar problems? Have you had similar problems when your companions wanted you to do wickedly? Answer 1. Have you had problems when wicked men or wicked women wanted you to, or had laid snares for you? Tracy says yes. Next. Anna says yes. People who just hate and despise, and just I wasn't around. Yeah, no worries, my sister. Let's see. We're not on question 3, so don't put up a question 3. Pay attention to your numbers, my dear. Sam says about in Victorian. There are those who are fake, smile, but they only looking to get what's benefit them. Or you enter agreement, let's say a business partner, and you bought into the business, but they make excuse in what or why they do not have anything to pay you because selfish tendency. Or you loan someone money and they say they pay you back, and yet they always come up with an excuse. Oh, but I wish I wasn't around, Susanna. Maureen says yes. Well, remember that these are people. If as you read through verse 40, what you see is men and women, people who are evil, people who are violent, who want to do wickedly. And let's see it there. They imagine mischief in their hearts. They are gathered for. They're always wanting to go to war. These are people whose tongues are just as sharp as swords, and they spread poison. You ever been around a person who just seems always bitter, who's always spreading lies, who always seems to want to, who always wants to go to war with anybody and everybody. Everybody's out against them. Everybody's against them. It's never their fault. They always got an excuse for why everybody else is acting the way they act, and yet they also they're also ready to fight at the drop of a hat. And they're always jealous of somebody else's good fortune. It seems like they can't ever say anything good about anybody. And or maybe you've been around a person where you constantly have to watch your back. You have to watch what you say, because they are going to, if you don't, they're going to take it the wrong way, or they're going to take what you say and they're going to change it to benefit themselves. And the next thing you know, you're out on your ear. We call them backstabbers, by the way. Right? And that's pretty much the entirety of the first half of Psalm 140. For the first 5 verses, and then from verse 6 and following, he calls upon God to one, deliver him, and then two, for God to bring their mischief and their evilness, their wickedness, upon their own heads. Let them fall into their own traps. By the way, the word jinns there, that's what it is: traps, pits, engines, devices, snares. Yeah, you're always walking on eggshells around them, but it's not because you're afraid of offending them, Sam. It's because you're afraid that they're going to take your words and twist them. There's a big difference between walking on eggshells because a fear of offense. For example, we may be, that contentious woman that Solomon talks about in the Proverbs, and walking on eggshells because of an evil person or a wicked person who turns around and is going to use your words and stab you in the back. They're two different eggshells. It's like we have it's kind of like we have Americana chickens here, is what they're called. They're also now, I think, called Easter egg chickens or some other thing. They've changed the name of the breed. But what it is they actually lay 3 different colored eggs. They have the green, and they're different colored versions of green. Basically, they may white, blue, and or I should say a blue green and then a green. And we also have Buff Orpingtons, which lay brown eggs, and then we have the black Astrolorps, which they're kind of more of a they're kind of a brown as well, but they also do more of the green, or a light, a paler. Of course, mine are so crossbred that it's really hard to tell. but more of a sea green type of a situation, or a pastel. Um, and we also have Brahmas, which are more of a brown. So it's like, okay, we have different eggshells because there's a difference in quality between a white eggshell and a brown eggshell. I don't know if you guys ever know this. If you don't, I'm about to school you. But a brown eggshell has more calcium. It's thicker. It's harder. And so when you go to crack it, you actually have to apply more force. And by the way, the brown eggshells are typically better for the brown eggs are typically better for you because they're higher in protein and higher in better nutrient value. Your white eggs, however, are a thinner shell. They crack easier. They hold together better, so you don't have quite as many. Um, you're not supposed to anyway. Have quite as many crumbles into your eggs, and but there again, you don't have quite as good of a nutrient value to them. And the chickens have been hybridized or crossbred to account for this, so that that's why the white eggs you get in the store are the way they are. Whereas if they were, just basically the heirloom variety of whites, they would have a much stronger shell than what you would get in the store. But they're a different eggshell. And that's why I say walking on eggshells for a fence is different than walking on eggshells because you're worried about how they might be using your words against you. All right, so let's go on to question number 3. Read Psalm 142, verse 4. If Alyssa will bring that one up for us again. Burp, excuse me. 142, verse 4. I looked on my right hand and beheld, but there was no man that would know me. Refuge failed me. No man cared for my soul. Now, the question we have is, why was David's relationship with God so important to him? Anna says God was everything to him. He knew God was his refuge, specifically when men failed him. Sam says matters, and that last only Jesus, who is man and is God, care for us. Yeah, you might want to fix my potholes. You guys keep digging in my shoulder there, people. Anyway, Maureen says his priority was to seek God and avoid evil. Where's Sister T's, Alicia? There it is. Because he knew God had him and he loved God. Notice what it says here in this verse. I looked on my right hand and beheld there, but there was no man that would know me. In other words, there was no one there to stand with him. No one. Man had failed him. Pretty terrible, isn't it? There comes a point in time in every one of our lives where we will have no human that stands with us. None. Then what are we going to do? David said, I looked on my right hand and there was no one there that would know me. Remember the relationship he had with Jonathan? This psalm was written when he was in that cave, running from Saul. If you notice at the very first of the verse, top of the verse, top of the psalm, it's Immaculate David, a prayer when he was in the cave. Jonathan wasn't even there with him. Sam fixes his answer. And that is, but God is reliable and the only one that matters. And that at the last, only Jesus, who is man and is God, cares for us. Even Jonathan wasn't with him in the cave. And of all the 300 or 400 men that he had with him, can you imagine a cave big enough to fit 400 men and be silent while, and get them to be silent while Saul came in to relieve himself? Ay. But anyway, he says, I looked on my right hand, there was none that would know me. No one. I found no refuge. I couldn't rely on anyone. Verse 4, please, Alicia. And that brought home the idea of that no man cared for my soul but God. In verse 5, he says, I cried unto thee, O Lord. I said, thou art my refuge. And my portion in the land of the living. When it seems that all else fails, that's when you add two things there, Sam. But when it seems that all else fails, God is the one constant in our life. We may look at things and go, well, where's God in this? Where's God in that? Why am I allowed to do this? Why am I in this situation? How could a loving God allow me to suffer? How could a loving God allow such pain and suffering in the world? Well, one, to take pain and suffering out of the world would eliminate our ability to be individuals and to make choices. Two, it would supersede the law of consequences, the law of nature that he instilled. As one writer I have recently read, I like to read. I like to read science fiction and among other things. So I read my Bible, but there are times when I will read for just personal enjoyment as well. And I read a science fiction series recently, dealt in space, and it was quite fascinating series. Um, but the main character had a conversation with God in this one particular series, and God says to the main character, he says, if I if I allowed video evidence and beyond a shadow of a doubt, there would be no faith. And then people would go to war when other people decided not to believe and force, and that's not what I want. It caused me to do some thinking there, but he said, here's the thing, I created you with the ability to choose. So it is up to you to make choices, and you can screw things up the way, to your heart's content. I'm kind of paraphrasing because I don't have the exact quote in front of me. We are allowed to mess things up, and yet God can take our pain and our suffering and make something good out of it. He created us in His image with the ability to reason and the ability to make our own choices. And when we get it wrong, we have the ability to turn around and make things right, to learn and to grow from our mistakes. If there was no pain and suffering in the world, then the tree would have no strength to bear its branches. The tomato would not be able to bear fruit. The seed would never sprout from the ground. It is through trial and tribulation that our faith grows, that we as individuals learn to overcome and to solve problems and to be individuals. David's relationship with God was so important to him because man inevitably has weaknesses. Man inevitably has times when they cannot be there for their friends. But God is always there for His people. And David recognized this. There was no man that cared for my soul. So I cried unto the Lord. I cried unto thee, O Lord. I said, thou art my refuge. You are my refuge and my portion in the land of the living. I relied on you. Question number four rather. What is the connection between verses 3 and 4 in Psalm 141 and verse 8? So we're going to go over to Psalm 141. Verse 3. Psalm 141, verse 3. You did this again, Alicia. Thank you. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. Incline not my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men that work iniquity, and let me not eat their dainties. Sam says we're told to be like Jesus, so we need to learn to be like him and to be there for one another. Sam, we do. But I'm going to be kind of a thorn in your side here for a moment and ask you, where was Jesus when the disciples were in the midst of the storm before he came walking on the water? I'll let you ponder that one a moment. What is the connection between verses 3 and 4? Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. Incline not my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men that work iniquity, and let me not eat of their dainties. And then verse 8. But mine eyes are unto thee, O God, the Lord. In thee is my trust. Leave not my soul destitute. Answer 1, please. To keep the eyes on the Lord and trust in him, says Sister T. Sam says there's nothing that can fill our God-sized hole but God. Nothing. All things on the earth. If our eyes are upon all the lusts or material things, we will forfeit our soul. Can I finish reading the comment, please, Alicia? Back to Sam's, please. We will forfeit our soul and do not take pleasure in wicked men. James 3, verses 1 through 12. Letting ourselves, if we get in our own way, when we are focused on self and things, our care is for the things of this world. All right, next answer. Answer Anna, please. The Lord is to guide all we say and do all the time. And Maureen says distractions. No, that one, actually, give me Maureen's number 3, please. His priority was to seek God and avoid evil. Thank you, Alicia. Her numbers were off, remember? All right. What is the connection? In verse 3, David's appealing to God to guard his mouth. In verse 4, he is appealing to God to guide his heart and prevent him from eating their dainties. And in verse 8, he is making a commitment to focus on God and trust in him and asking God to provide. So when you look at those in that explanation, is there a different connection? What would you say that? Let me ask you. What would you say is if you were to sum those three verses up in one word, what would you say it would be? Sam says he's asking God to help control him. Yes, I agree, Sam. I think you could actually leave out one word of your statement and have it perhaps say it better. You're right, but I think you could leave that one word out and say it much better. But if you were to sum those three verses up in one word, what word would you use? Guard my lips, guide my heart, provide. Help. If you leave out that word in the previous sentence, Sam, what would you get? I did. And that's a very good one-word summation. If we look at it in that term, what one word describes that phrase, Sam? Don't be shy, ladies. Jump in there. Jesus, I surrender. Humbly at his feet I bow. Maureen says focus. I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all. Surrender. If you're asking God to guard your lips, you are turning over control of those. If you're asking God to guide your heart, You're turning over control. If you're asking God to provide and deliver, you're turning over control. You are surrendering to God. If you are placing your trust in God, you are surrendering to God. Submission, surrender. That's right, Anna. You are submitting. The whole idea behind Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life that I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me, is that one of total submission and surrender unto God, unto Christ. And David here is saying the same thing. That's another good way to look at it, Sam. Denying oneself. He is giving over control of his lips, of his heart, and of his life to God. He's not seeking to deliver himself anymore. He's not seeking to provide this stuff for himself. He's saying, God, guard me, guide me, provide for me. I trust in you. Is that easy for us today to do today? David was a man in a cave. He was a man who was trapped. He had no way out. There was no one on his right hand to save him but God. That was in the previous, by the way, in the previous one. Let's see here. What are we at on 141? It is just a Psalm of David. So this is not when he was in the cave, but still, when you think about all the times that he was trapped, when you think about the fact that this man was king, he was a leader, and he says, I'm trusting in you. It isn't easy for us. We are so used to controlling our own minds and our own bodies, our own destiny, as it were, that it is hard for us to release that control. Yet the king of the entire nation of Israel said to God, guard my lips, guide my heart, provide for me, and I'm going to trust in you. We need to work on that, don't we? I do. I know I do. Question number 5. When is it most difficult for you to keep your eyes fixed on God? Answer number 1, please, Alicia. Teresa says, when I'm around negative things. That's right, Sam. That goes back to our meditation. Sam says, when we look upon our own self, we get in our own way. And like we said earlier, we're distracted by our lust and the devices of this world. Answer next. Anna says, when I get lost in my temper. And Sister Maureen says distractions. Guys, it's difficult to trust it's difficult to keep our eyes on God when we take our eyes off of God. Now you're like, well, thanks for that, Captain Obvious. You're welcome. Let me ask you this. Who's responsible for where our eyes are looking? Teresa says me. Anna says me. Sam says ourselves. Sam says, remember 16:9. No, I don't. Job 31, verse 1. Alicia? I love this passage in Job. Job 31, verse 1. Job is before Psalms, my dear. Make sure that you have, there you go. Verse 1, I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I look upon a maid? 1 Corinthians 16, verse 9. I still can't remember that one either. 16:9, Alicia. 16, verse 9. For a great and open, a great door and effectual is opened unto me, and there are many adversaries. That has nothing to do with our eyes, my brother, except that we need to be looking for the opportunities to spread the gospel. Context, brother, context. Job says, I've made a covenant with my eyes. We're going to go back to Psalms 141. Or not 141. We're going to go back to focusing on the thing. It is most difficult for us to keep our eyes on God when we choose to take our eyes off God. When Peter was on the water walking toward Jesus, he was doing fine until he saw the storm around him and the waves. And then he began to sink and said, Lord, save me. He chose to take his eyes off of Jesus. Now, he did it because he couldn't believe that he was actually walking on the water. But the point still stands. He took his eyes off of Christ. And as soon as we take our eyes off of Christ is when we begin to have problems. In the parable of the sower, the one plant, the seed fell among the thorns. And it was the cares and concerns of this world that choked it out. So even though the seed grew, it sprouted, it grew, it began to get tall and beautiful. But the thorns and the thistles, the cares and concerns of this world, caused it to take its eyes off of God, caused it not to get the light and the nourishment that it needed, and it was choked. So yes, distractions. Lust, James says, is from within. It isn't because we're around negative things. It's because we allow negative things to influence us. People don't make me angry. I allow incidents to make me angry. I allow my anger to get the better of me. Because ultimately, they are not responsible for my emotions. I am. So if I'm sitting in traffic and someone cuts me off, I have the choice. I can say, well, he needed that spot better more than I did. And I can let them go on down it, that road. Or I can get angry and try to get even. The choice is mine. Am I going to let one incident impact my day, affect my emotional state of being for an entire day, for an entire minute? I can choose to let something in or keep it out. Now, that's not saying in any way, I'm not going to try to contradict what we said about 1 Corinthians 15:33, where it said that be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good morals. If you're constantly in negative atmosphere day in, day out, it is going to wear on you. Lot is a prime example. He was living in Sodom, and for day in and day out, it vexed his soul, the unrighteousness of that city. We find in 2 Peter, I believe it is, and maybe it's in 1 Peter, but anyway. Or is it in Jude? Now I've got to go look. It's in Jude. Maybe. Nope. Second Peter 2 and verse 7. He was in that negative city. He was in that sinful city. And he was vexed with that filthy lifestyle of the wicked. It impacted him. It drug him down. And we can allow that in, or we can change situations. But ultimately, you are responsible for your emotions. You are responsible for your reactions. You are responsible for your actions. One of the things that my parents taught me growing up is when we got in trouble and we tried to blame our siblings, specifically my mother would look at me and go, whose fault is it? And the more I tried to put the blame on somebody else, the more she would hound that question, whose fault is it that you did this? Until I would come to the realization that I did not have to follow my sibling. I didn't have to do what my sibling said. I chose to do it. And we as parents need to teach that to our children. It's not the other person's fault that you did or chose unwisely. Yes, they may have, like Satan, deceived you. But Eve, like you, chose to listen and act upon that deception. Did you know better? Yes. Did you do the right? No. Who told you you were naked? Well, did you eat of the fruit that I told you not to eat? Well, the woman you gave to me, and I did eat. Oh, so it's my fault now that you chose to disobey me. God punished all three of the principles there. God says we are each responsible for our actions. And we are each of us responsible for keeping our eyes focused upon God. That means that we need to surrender to God. We have to learn that skill. We need to be like Job, make a covenant with our eyes, not to look upon wicked things. We need to make a covenant with our mouth, not to speak wicked things. It doesn't matter that my wife does this or that. It doesn't matter that my neighbor does this or that. I am in charge of my faculties. It doesn't matter that my neighbor was a thief or did something like that in the past. What does matter is how I respond today. Stop casting the blame for your problems on somebody else, because how you react is what you're in charge of. Let's go to God in prayer. Our Father God in heaven, we come before your throne, asking that you would indeed guard our lips, guide our hearts, provide for us every day, that you would be our refuge, our shelter from this world, that you would defend us against all that seek us harm, especially from our adversary, the devil, and that you would guide our lips that they may speak what is right, that we may know what to say, how to say it, and when to say it, that it may profit you and your kingdom the most. Father, guard our lips, because we know that there has been only one man in this entire world that has ever tamed his tongue, and he now sits on your right hand. Father, we pray that you would bless our efforts this day to surrender ourselves, submitting ourselves to your control, that we may be pleasing in your sight, wholly focused upon your word, your will, and that we may accomplish much that brings honor and glory to your name. We ask your forgiveness for the times that we have tried to shirk our responsibility in matters that were really our fault. We ask your forgiveness for the times that we have been distracted and taken our eyes off of you. And we ask your forgiveness, Father, for the times that we have said, thought, and practiced things that were in opposition to your will. We love you and desire to do that which pleases you. We ask that you would create in us a new heart, one that is clean and pure, wholly devoted to service to you. We ask that you would renew in us a right spirit, one that is devoted to keeping our eyes upon you, one that is devoted to being in submission to your word, that you may be God of our life, that your Son may reign and live in us, that you may live in us, and that we may be the temple of yours. It is in Christ's name that we ask this. Amen. Our prayer, our hope, our aim has been to edify, and that we hope and pray that you have indeed been edified through our service today. As you go forth in your walk this day, won't you indeed submit yourself to God? If you haven't submitted yourself to God, today is the day. Why not now? I was talking with a brother yesterday. The past is over. You can't control it. Give it up, learn from it, and move on. It's time. It's over. That's why it's called past. It's done. It's gone. Tomorrow is not guaranteed to us. That's why it's the future. No one knows what's going to happen. Today is a gift from God. That's why it's the present. How will you use God's gift? You're only allowed this very next breath. Each and every breath is a gift from God. Use it for God. Give it to God. And as you walk this day, won't you add to your faith devotion? I'll see you then. God bless in your walk with him. I love you all.